Me, Reverend Lee Wolak. We're here each and every day at 8 a.m. for your viewing, listening pleasure. And I love being with you. Absolutely love taking this time to talk with you, to share with you, to converse with you on ideas, on questions, on things. And today, what really hit me was this idea of our identification for what we're seeing. So we think we are, what we see is who we are. In reality, we are the seer that is observing what's in our experience. And that's really an interesting perspective to take on life, because if you really break it down, we have become, the ego so identifies with what's going on in our lives that it doesn't realize that it is really the observer. It's just the observer. Good morning, Jess and Ange and Pat. Anyone else out there, please check in. Let me know who you are. It's nice to know that there's a group of people out there that I'm talking to, and I can associate names with energies, because that's all I can do, because I can't see you. And I know, for example, when you go to a movie, when we used to go to movie theaters, and you're watching the movie, do you get really drawn in, or are you able to sit back and be the observer of the movie? In a movie theater, I can tend to really get sucked in. I really put myself into that character. But then I'm able to realize at the same time, I'm choosing to do that. Now, the question in real life is, are you choosing to be the observer or the observed? Are you choosing to be attached to what you're observing, or just allow it to move in and move out? Because as the observer, you really have no skin in the game. As the observer, you're there to just observe the experience as opposed to become totally attached to it. Now, I don't want you to think that you can do that all the time. I don't want you to think that you can be the observer all the time. It's impossible with the ego. You're going to identify. But then how do you come back to being the observer so that you don't have the pain? You don't get the attachment, because with attachment comes great suffering. No other way to say that. With attachment comes great suffering. I'm trying not to be attached, but today's my day off. And on my day off, guess what I want to do today? I want to go to the Italian market. But you know what? I can't be attached to wanting to go, because I've got so many other things that are more important than going to the Italian market. So I'm just observing myself longing to do something, but then realizing, is that going to serve me? If I find a way that it's going to serve me in ways that really are valuable to me, I'll be going. But if it's not, I'm gonna stand back and let it be another day. Zach says, I love how I have conversations with my wife, and the next day I talk about the same stuff. Well, you know what, Zach? I'm going to tell you. Your wife has my phone number, and she sends me text messages just so that we can mess with your head. I just love that. You know, people, we take life too seriously. I know a lot of people say to me, Reverend Lee, you've got to be a serious minister. I said, well, there's times to be serious, and there's times not to be. And I think we just take life way, way, way too seriously. And guess what? If we take life too seriously, we forget a prime reason why we're in our body, why we have a mind, to have fun. Do you get that? We just get so wrapped up in the seriousness of it. Got to chill, folks. Got to take it easy. I know my wife is going through a implementation of a new process at the hospital where she's director of medical records, and they're bringing in these new scanning machines, and things they're going to be going live next week, and they're struggling, and I can see my wife taking it really seriously, and things are not as smooth as she wants, and so she's having this reaction. I said, hey, observe the situation. When you observe it, you don't put the sense of importance on it. a scanning machine not working right, you know what? There's always going to be issues when you're doing something new in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world for 32 years. Everything in the corporate world was a priority and a potential crisis. I've been out of the corporate world now a while. I've been out of the corporate world for 16 years now. Guess what? All those crises that I thought were ending the world were nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what happened was I couldn't separate the fact of what I was seeing versus what I was observing. I wasn't able to be in the observer role. And therefore I got real attached and I got really emotional and it really affects your body. It affects your mind. It affects your ability to look at life. So whatever you're going through right now, you've got to look at it from the observer perspective. And in reality, in the scheme of the infinite, is it even important? There's probably nothing in our lives that's that important. So we can be happy. We can be joyful. We can be balanced. For me, that is the key word to living this life, is we're going to get out of balance, but come back to balance. Balance is where you find that inner peace. Balance is where you find that inner connection. The great mystics talk about balances between the thoughts. It's that little space between the thoughts. I also look at it as balance is that space between the breath. You barely know it's there. You can't even know it's there. When you're in between, you don't know where you are. That's when you're connected to the infinite. You see, when you're connected to the infinite, there's no feeling. There are no emotions. Okay, I can give you an example of being the observer in a situation and being emotionally attached. That's a great one. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Here's a situation. 2013. I'm in the Himalayas. I'm doing a silent meditation retreat. I'm on the foothills of the Ganga River on the banks of the Himalayas. And as we go through this retreat, we get caught in the worst floods of the history of that area. 100,000 people were left homeless. 6,000 people died. We were literally trapped in the ashram with the water coming up. And we had to find a way to make our way to a helicopter pad 4 hours at least away from us. But we didn't know how to do that. And I remember my friend Naranjan and I took this trek, the two of us alone, along with a guide that we hired from the local village, so that we could find the path and then come back and tell the people in the ashram, this is what we've got to do. What were our options? Well, when we did that, we went there, and I'm telling you, we were 750 feet up the side of a hill over the Ganga River, and it had been pouring like crazy. So it was slippery as all hell. And I can remember at one point I was slipping down, and the guide grabbed my wrist and stopped me from falling in. Remember that as clear as day. And I remember in that moment, I stepped out of my body and I started to observe what happening. And I saw the guide reaching for me. And then what happened is I continued that journey that day. I was in two places. I was in the event, and yet I was observing myself in the event. And in that observation, I didn't have any fear. That was the really biggest insight that I had, was that when you're the observer, there is no fear, because there's nothing to fear. And it was a life transformational journey that I had on that trip. I discovered more about myself than I could ever imagine. I discovered and met my best friend in the world there. So I look at this and I say, we think tragedy breeds negative things. In this case, what we perceive as tragedy. Do you notice what I said? We perceive as tragedy changed my life, helped me to go deeper, and in my mind, raise my level of awareness and allow me to have a greater experience of life. That's the best example I can give you, 2 cents, but that's okay. You'll find your own example of when you're observing the situation and you're not totally in it. The great thing is to be in it and observe it at the same time. That's a hoot, and it can be done. So with that, I'm going to say to you, you are responsible, 100% responsible for what experience you have today. You can observe the experience. You can be in the experience. There is no right or wrong. What I'm going to say to you, if you want to be in classes with me, I'm starting a couple classes next week. Mondays, I think I have Universal Spiritual Principles. And on Tuesday, I'm teaching how to better self-love, mastery of love, how to better self-love yourself, because that's where all love begins. These are a 5-week and a 6-week class. If you're interested, I got the website, agapespiritualcenter.com. It's there. Just go there and click on the classes. You'll find all the information you need if you're interested in joining me. There's still room in the class. We're doing everything by Zoom. And so it's going to be a wonderful experience if you want to join me. Otherwise, hey, go create your day. Be the observer, be the experiencer, but most importantly, be you. Tanisha, if you need the values workshop, send me an email and we can schedule that. You can go to the website, agapespiritualcenter.com. You'll find that the values workshop is there under counseling with Reverend Lee, and you can find out all the things there. So I just share that with you, and no matter what happens today, I accept you and I love you just the way you are. Until next time, gang, aloha.